We are about to get started. Welcome to the Tennessee Democratic Party's first of three Democratic gubernatorial primary debates. Our next debates are scheduled to be June 21st in Nashville, Tennessee, July 12th in Memphis, Tennessee. That way we get to cover all three grand divisions across the state. But tonight, to those of you here in Knoxville and in East Tennessee, give yourselves a round of applause. Tonight, one of our three dynamic candidates for governor will not be joining us, Dr. Jason Martin. He is recovering from COVID, so we want to wish him and his family well. He has been doing the good work of working in an emergency room as an ER doctor. So hopefully next time we see Dr. Martin on the 21st. With no further ado, I don't want you to hear from me all night. I want to introduce our moderator for the evening, Mr. Jesse Mayshark. Jesse Mayshark is co-founder of Compass, an online news source covering local government, politics, education, and business in Knoxville and Knox County. He has worked as a reporter and editor for publications including Metro Pulse, the New York Times, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. He has also worked for 7 years in the communications for former Knoxville Mayor Madeline Rogero. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our moderator for the evening, Mr. Jesse Mayshark.
All right, thanks very much, Hendrell. I appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for coming out on a rainy Thursday. And of course, we're sorry Dr. Martin can't be here and wish him all the best. But let's introduce the two candidates who we do have here tonight. We have Dr. Carnita Atwater, a Memphis community leader, and J.B. Smiley Jr., an attorney and Memphis City Councilman, first elected in 2019. Please welcome them. And really quickly, I just want to run through the format for tonight's debate. The first thing I want to say is that although this is a Tennessee Democratic Party debate and event, I, as a reporter, generated all of the questions that I'll be asking myself in consultation with other reporters. The party did not have any input into that. The candidates have been given general topic areas that may be covered, but they have not been provided with the specific questions. Also, I know there was an opportunity for some of you to ask your own questions, and so if you have filled those out, those cards will be coming forward to the table and we will work them in as we can. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to answer each question, 90 seconds apiece, and we will alternate who begins the answer of each question. So I'm going to ask the first question and then get off the stage down to the table there. And we did a coin toss backstage. Dr. Atwater will be answering the first question first. And the question is this, chance to let both of you introduce yourselves a little bit to our East Tennessee audience. What is it about your personal backgrounds and professional experience that most motivates and qualifies you to lead the state of Tennessee? And Dr. Atwater, you go first.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Carnita Atwater, and what qualifies me to be the next governor of the state of Tennessee? I'm well-rounded, well-grounded, I am people-oriented, community-driven, and I am the people's governor. I have served in the capacity of a medical director, dean of medical students, academic dean, medical director, hospital administrator, nursing home administrator, adjunct professor, nurse. I'm a mother of 92 foster care children, and I'm a community advocate. I think I am the person that can take Billy out. So that's pretty much what I would like to say.
All right, Councilman Smiley.
Thank you. So I don't necessarily believe that something particularly qualifies me. I will tell you the people will ultimately decide that in August and November. But what I will tell you is I am uniquely positioned to serve in this moment. I currently wake up every single day and I solve the problems of people. But in addition to my work as an attorney, I go to City Hall. And my district is one of the most diverse districts as it relates to socioeconomic status. I have the poorest zip code in the state of Tennessee, but also one of the most affluent. And what I have to do, I have to bring people together from completely different backgrounds, have difficult conversations, but ultimately move us forward. In this moment of divisiveness in our state, we need a leader, we need an elected representative that will bend to the will of the people, but ultimately move us in the direction toward progress. I believe that my skills, my ability to connect with people, have conversations with diverse groups, will put the state of Tennessee in a much better position, a position that leads us to progress. Thank you all.
All right. And the next question, Councilman Smiley, you will have the first answer for this. Governor Bill Lee this year proposed and the legislature adopted a new state funding formula for public education in Tennessee. It replaces the 30-year-old basic education program with what the governor calls Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement. Do you support this change, and do you think it is sufficient to meet the needs of the state's public school students?
I wish I had 2 minutes to talk on this, but much like everything that this governor has done, it's ineffective and inefficient. It does not meet the needs of the people of Tennessee. Let's look at the problem with the formula. Currently, there is 11,000 teachers that our current formula does not fund. So what happens? That means local school districts have to bear the burden of their particular price. And also, when we talk about this TISA formula, there is nothing that provides for a mandatory pay increase for teachers. Just like every single formula that's been before this date, it leaves the teachers out in the cold. If we talk about raising the floor for marginalized communities, we're talking about putting students in a better position. We must pay teachers a salary commensurate with their worth. In addition to that, let's talk about the funding. We've slightly increased the funding, but guess what that means for us? That means students still are left behind. More particularly, we're still in the bottom 10 states in this country when it talks about how much money we spend per pupil. We have to do more than what we're doing. But in terms of what I would do to fix this formula, because it takes a long time to fix things like this, things that have been dragged out, they rushed it. But the very first thing we do, we increase the formula. We increase the funding to the formula, but in addition to that, we mandate that teachers are getting a pay increase, but also we take the burdens off of local municipalities and make the state do what it's supposed to be doing, which is providing for the people of Tennessee.
Okay. Same question, Dr. Atwater.
As a former educator, I disagree with Governor Bill Lee, but I would like to take a different spin, even though that formula will not work. I believe in public schools, but in order for us to address the real issues in the school system, we must address from a holistic approach. If we're going to talk about the funding, we must also talk about the crime, the poverty, the systemic racism, the homelessness, lack of housing. So we cannot disfragment just one section of funding. We must also address the holistic approach of that child and the family. Also, we must address mental health when it comes to the child and the family. So I think it's premature. I think we need to have a comprehensive educational program for the school system. And being a former teacher, when I was a teacher, even though we did not have money, I have a proven record of spending my money and giving my money back to the children in the school. Thank you.
Next question, and Dr. Atwater, you will answer first here. 2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 26,000 Tennesseans have died from complications of the disease. That ranks us either 4th or 5th among states in per capita deaths, depending on which chart you look at. How would you grade the state's public health response to the pandemic? And as governor, what would be your priorities in guiding the ongoing response?
First of all, again, you would have to have a comprehensive plan to address that. We're behind the curveball now. We should have been ahead of the game when we first heard about COVID-19. I would go back and address not only the long haul of COVID, but you also, again, have to address the housing issues, the lack of jobs, crime, economic disparities, and a host of other things to pull people up to par, because it's going to be a long time before we can get past the remnants and the devastation of COVID.
Councilman Smiley?
I remember the council meeting in which our body had to ultimately make a decision on whether or not to implement mask mandates. It went around the room. Every single council member took their vote. And ultimately, I ended up being one of the last votes cast. And my council members, they leaned and they trust me to make a very sound decision. And for me, it was all about, understanding what the medical professionals were telling us. As a result of my vote to implement a mask mandate, the city of Memphis became one of the largest municipalities and one of the first municipalities to issue a mask mandate. What I would do differently, what I saw in my community, the district in which I represent, COVID-19, the way in which we rolled out the vaccinations, it created a disparate impact on Black and brown communities. The things that we should have done differently, we needed leadership on day one. I think I've been pretty consistent in saying that the governor should have come out and stated specifically that we are encouraging people to get vaccinated. That's all it takes. If you encourage people to get vaccinated as the leader of this state, people will do the right thing and get vaccinated. Unfortunately, for us, our governor simply didn't show up. I can tell you one thing. On every single day for you all, I'm going to show up, I'm going to put in the work, and I'm going to listen to the medical professionals, because that's the type of leadership we need. Someone who will show up on day one, someone who will listen to the medical experts, and someone who will get the job done.
Next question, you'll begin, Councilman Smiley. Tennessee has scored some major economic development projects in recent years, including Oracle and Amazon facilities in Nashville, and of course the Blue Oval City Ford Motor Complex outside Memphis. The state has sometimes been criticized for a lack of transparency in the incentives and agreements it offers in pursuing economic development. What do you think is the proper role of incentives, and what level of public transparency is necessary?
Well, we talk about public transparency and its governor. I think the two shouldn't be used in the same sentence. Let me start there. But in addition to that, we spend a lot of money investing in development, but not enough money investing in the people. We recently spent $500 million for a shiny new stadium for the Tennessee Titans, but we're still paying on the old stadium. We won't be finished paying for the old stadium until the end of 2027. That's problematic. My approach to economic development, the way in which we invest in our communities, we start with the people. Tennessee right now has the 4th lowest median income in the country. What that tells me is people are poor, people are struggling, and they need a governor who will start investing in them on day one. We start by paying people a living wage. We start by implementing workforce development programs in communities across the state, from the rural roads travel to the urban centers, because that's what's important and that's what's needed. Thank you.
And Dr. Atwater, same question to you.
Yes. As my opponent was talking, I was going through deja vu here, because I am the person who sued the city, Shelby County, City Council, County Commissioner, the state of Tennessee, and Governor Lee for giving tax incentives to the large corporation when poor people is losing their homes every day in the city of Memphis. And ironically, the City Council talk about serving the people and how well a job he has done in Memphis. When you go to the district 8181, his district, it looks like a war zone. He voted on the majority of the tax incentive for large corporations, while people in Memphis in his district live in poverty, live in dilapidated homes. I know children eating old food, senior citizens eating cat food. This is public record that I have always said in the city of Memphis. Also crime. We had 354 killing, 18 was children in the city of Memphis. That's where the public funding should go. And I think that all politicians should be responsible. This is not about playing with people's lives and saying slogans to make you feel good. You need a governor about the people. I'm a people governor. I have the boots on the ground. I have proven record of that.
Can I respond?
And one thing I didn't mention in the rules is that any assertion or criticism by one candidate the other candidate will get 60 seconds to respond. So yes, Councilman Smiley.
Thank you so kindly. Ironically, what Dr. Atwater did not mention is when I ran for office, she was one of the very first people to endorse our candidacy. So I appreciate you for your support. But as it relates to economic development, we talked specifically about incentives. We need to make sure that Tennessee is attracting new industry, because we want new jobs, but also investing in the people. It's a balancing act as an executive officer to do what we need to do. So we're encouraging new business to come in Memphis, but we're also investing in people. That's why we significantly increase the amount of contracting dollars that Black and brown people have received. That's why we're making sure that housing are starting to be affordable in the city of Memphis. We're doing our part. We just need a little help.
Okay, and the next question, we'll start with you, Dr. Atwater. We are here on the University of Tennessee campus, which of course is a state-owned facility. This year, the state legislature passed a bill restricting the teaching of certain, quote, divisive concepts, unquote, mostly relating to race and gender, that many faculty members believe could have a chilling effect on how and what they teach. What is your opinion of that bill? And as governor, how would you approach academic freedom in state colleges and universities?
I will start with Governor Bill Lee. He's insidious, barbaric, antiquated, and I would just call him a closet racist. I have researched what you're talking about. He banned UT Knox diversity and inclusion program. He went to the University of Memphis and stopped the funding for their diversity and inclusion incentive. So he talked about trying to make it better quality of life for people when he's really against the very people with the bright mind in the universities. So I have researched him well. I think Bill Lee needs to be out of office because he's going backward. We need to be going forward as a people.
Councilman Smiley, same
Repeat
question. The question is, this year, the state legislature passed a bill restricting the teaching of certain divisive concepts that many faculty members believe could have a chilling effect on how and what they teach. What is your opinion of that bill? And as governor, how would you approach academic freedom in state colleges and universities?
Well, whoever wrote that question kind of hurt my feelings because I don't necessarily believe that speaking the truth or teaching the truth is divisive. I think it's what we need in this state. We shy away from issues that may make us feel uncomfortable, but those issues will ultimately make us feel better. When I just think about, my education, when I was in law school, we had several conversations when we talked about the Constitution of our great country, and those conversations were difficult. We talked about racism. We talked about systemic problems in our system, but ultimately what happened is Democrats and Republicans came together, all committed to one goal, which is moving our country forward. How would I approach it? We give teachers the unfettered discretion to teach how they need to teach. They have the skills, they have the training, they went to school so they can put us in a better position. Critical thinking is not lost. We need to allow teachers to put students in a position so they can ultimately succeed in life. Thank you.
Okay. And we have a question from the audience here, which ties directly into the next question I was going to ask. We're all still in shock from the horrific massacre on Tuesday of children and teachers at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. In recent years, Tennessee has taken several steps to provide more freedom to gun owners to carry their weapons in most places in the state, including the abolition of a requirement for a concealed carry permit. As governor, what, if any, steps would you take to protect children and all Tennesseans from gun violence?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take 10 seconds to take a brief moment of silence for those students and families who lost someone. Okay. So first, what I would do is I think we have to do everything we can to repeal permitless carry, but we must take it a step further. We all know that's what we need to be doing, but we also need to be banning assault rifles. They have no place in our society. But in addition to that, there's a program that we're investing in my district, which is called Group Violence Intervention Program. This takes a very proactive and holistic approach to stopping gun violence before it starts. But in addition to that, we need to be teaching these young people who are getting their hands on these firearms, conflict resolution, and how to deal with adversity. But in addition to that, we need to be using our funding. We need to be expanding Medicaid so that we can connect people who are dealing with mental illness to treatment that they deserve and need. Thank you.
Same question, Dr. Atwater.
Simply put, if we do not address systemic racism and poverty and disinvestment in poor neighborhoods, gang affiliation, I have a proven record of working with ex-felons and gang members. About 10 years ago in the state of Tennessee, I served on a panel and I warned them that if they did not do a comprehensive gun control prevention plan, then we would be where we're at today. We are in a state of emergency and we need to have a comprehensive plan. Governor Haslem, he did a plan, but it was fragmented. Governor Lee just passed a crime reform bill. Right after he passed that bill, he passed a policy to increase the incarceration of people. So we need to go back and put the human side of people back into politics. And I believe in putting people into politics. So with that said, we also need to have other people, stakeholders, nonprofits, and other people at the table when we make decisions about people's lives living in the community.
Okay, next question, first answer to you, Dr. Atwater. A recent report by the Tennessee Higher Education Commission showed that the percentage of Tennessee high school graduates enrolling in post-secondary education has dropped over the past 2 years. Do you have a plan for increasing that percentage? And specifically, can you talk about the role you think career and technical education and trade schools could play?
I'm a product of trade school. I was in the CETA program. I know how to plumb. I know how to do carpentry, electrician, cosmetology. So I think it's a good idea that we go back and do trade programs. Also, I used to own a trade school where I taught LPN, CNA, medical assistant. So it is a good program. I think the university is in trouble because we focus more on academic. I think for a person to be successful in this day and time, they need to be well-rounded with hands-on also too. So I think it's a good balance. I think some people let the children make the choice to go to trade school or go to universities. I think it's a good fit on both ends.
I'm sorry, question. I have to ask you to repeat the question again.
Sure. A recent report by the Tennessee Higher Education Commission showed that the percentage of Tennessee high school graduates enrolling in post-secondary education has dropped over the past 2 years. Do you have a plan for increasing that percentage? And specifically, can you talk about the role you think career and technical education and trade schools could play?
I think the problem is that this administration has been hell-bent on taking money away from education. I'm also reminded of something that my father told me in the days of my youth. He would say, when I graduated from high school, I could leave school with all types of trade. I could lay bricks. I could become a carpenter. I could, your mom, she can also do hair. But we all learned it in school. And I think the problem with our education system, we're spending so much time making students, and we make them say that they're going to go to college. But a lot of times that we're not investing in vocational training. When we're not investing in vocational training, that means that those industries will go unfilled. There will be people out there needing a carpenter, needing someone to lay bricks for their home, but there simply won't be anyone to fill those roles. The role that we should take as it relates to rural Tennessee and rural students, we got to take a very active role. It is our job to fund the education system. It is our job to give those young people all the resources they need so they can do whatever they want to in life, have the ability to critically think, go directly into the workforce, go to a vocational training program, or go straight to the university. But we have to fund it and give them a real opportunity and a real shot at success. And that's what my administration will do.
Okay, next question, we're going to go to another audience question. And first answer to you, Councilman Smiley. How do you plan to reduce Tennessee's carbon footprint and make us more environmentally friendly? What would be your climate priorities as governor?
Well, first thing we do, we listen to the experts. The experts have already laid the foundation for us all. One thing they would tell you is to invest in green infrastructure. There's a real problem with surface water taking toxins directly to our drinking water, directly to our water systems. We invest in green infrastructure that will alleviate some of those problems, but also we have to get to the point in which carbon emissions and greenhouse gases are decreasing. And we decrease those by investing in renewable energy, decreasing our carbon footprint so that we can have a community in which the generations to come can live, play, and not worry about the toxins in the environment. And those are the things that my administration will invest in. Thank you.
And Dr. Atwater, same question to you, your climate priorities as governor.
Yes, as governor, I have the life experience as a farmer to address the footprint. And what I would do is start programs like solar installation on farms, on homes, especially poor people homes. I would put solar panels on there. I would implement electric cars. Also, I would, for the water, I would do rain barrels and a host of other creative ideas. On the street cars or the buses, I would put solar panels on those buses, and also try to engage people into driving or riding more bicycles down the bicycle trail.
Okay, and next question, first answer goes to you, Dr. Atwater. Given the leaked draft opinion in the Supreme Court's Dobbs case and a trigger law already on the books in Tennessee, it seems likely that most abortions will be illegal in the state within a matter of months. If you take office as governor in a state where abortion services are treated as felony crimes, how would you approach the issue?
Being a rape victim at the age of 16, repeat your question again, because I got emotional when you said it.
If you take office as governor in a state where abortion services are treated as felony crimes, how would you approach the issue?
First of all, again, it's insidious. And I think Governor Lee is not really thinking about the whole woman. And unfortunately, most people do not take things serious until it happened to them. And I would like to think with the legislative body and Bill Lee, if his wife or his child or grandchild was raped by a rapist, would he have the same opinion about abortions? Do I feel like a person should be a criminal because they have an abortion? No, I do not. I think a woman have a full autonomy of her body, and for whatever reason she may want to have an abortion, I think that's up to her. And no, I do not think we should use the criminal system against any woman.
And Councilman Smiley, same question to you.
I think I differ from Dr. Atwater when I would say that Governor Lee is not thinking. I think he is thinking. I think he just doesn't care about the opinion of women. My administration, we will allow women to make the decisions for themselves. I think the problem with it, and what's somewhat ironic about it, if we look at the General Assembly when talking about women's rights and reproductive health, they know nothing about reproductive health, reproductive justice. Because if they did, they would accept the absolute truth that women are entitled to make decisions about their body. And what my administration would do, I understand as a lawyer that my duty is to uphold the law of the state of Tennessee. So if that's the law, we're going to do something different. We won't charge. And if someone is charged and is ultimately convicted, I will use the power of the pen. We will immediately pardon folks who are charged with those type of crimes, because that's not what our job is. We shouldn't be going into the bedroom. We allow people to make decisions for themselves. And if I may, because we have a little bit of time, we also need to talk, when we talk about women, we also need to talk about the wage gap. What are we doing with that? We need to take a look at the Tennessee Equal Pay Act, address the problems, address the loopholes, and make sure women are being paid a salary the same as every single man in this state. Thank you.
May I have the,
Next.
excuse me, you call my name. May I have the opportunity to rebut?
Yes, you
Okay,
can
thank
respond.
you. Unlike Councilman Smiley, I'm not a politician. He's a city council. And being a city council, you have an obligation to protect the welfare of the people. In his district and all over the city of Memphis, you have women getting raped every day on the streets, homeless women getting raped. I never recall him putting forth any resolution for domestic violence, rape victim, homeless women. So I think it's ironic that he would say now that as governor, he would be doing all this for women, when as city council, he hasn't stepped up to the plate.
And we'll give 30 seconds for a response to the response.
Okay, so I think if we look at the number of elected officials, elected women in the state of Tennessee, we rank near the bottom. What I have done, I have directly helped women get elected in the state of Tennessee. But in addition to that, as it relates to what I have done to protect women, our job as elected officials, as legislators, is to implement laws and to also increase the budget of any entity that's telling us that they need problems. Our most recent police director came before our body and said they simply did not have enough funding to address crime. We significantly increased that funding because we understand that folks in this state need protection and they want to feel safe in their communities and their homes. And we've done that.
Okay, next question. First answer to you, Councilman Smiley. Tennessee stands to receive billions of dollars in infrastructure funding under the federal bill enacted last year. What are your top priorities for investing in infrastructure statewide?
So currently, the state of Tennessee has over $60 billion in what I would consider deferred maintenance or infrastructure improvements. What we are set to receive from the federal government is about $8 billion. The question is, how would I invest those $8 billion? Well, take a quick side note. I've been traveling a lot, and everywhere I've gone, I promise you, I hit so many potholes. I blew out a couple of tires, but one of the first things I would do, we need to invest in our highways and our streets. There's no reason we should be experiencing so many car-related crashes related to our potholes. We need to invest in our streets. But in addition to that, there was a study that talked about how many people in the state of Tennessee simply do not have access to broadband, good, reliable internet service. We take some of those monies and we directly invest in broadband, because in this day and age, there's no way possible for young people to get a good education. There's no way possible for some of us to work from my home to meet the needs of our communities. We have to invest in broadband. We have to invest in road infrastructure. But in addition to that, we need to be taking those dollars to invest in our sewer system. It's so important, especially right now. Thank you.
And Dr. Atwater, same question to you, your infrastructure priorities.
As the next governor of the state of Tennessee, I think that new development in infrastructure is beautiful, but I want to take a different spin. I want to invest into human infrastructure. It's good to have new development, but I can't see myself as a governor putting billions of dollars into infrastructure when we have people still living on the streets, homeless, living in poverty. And in Councilman Smiley community, you have people living in dilapidated homes with holes in the walls, living in poverty. So again, I find it ironic he have all these great ideas about what he's going to do as a governor, when as a city council, he could be helping the people now in the city of Memphis and all across. I donate 5,000 book bags and 10,000, I feed 10,000 individuals every year, homeless people. I don't have to have a title to do that. I think we need to take the responsibility that we are our brothers and sisters keeper. And it doesn't take the opportunity of being a governor, because even if I do not win this election, I'm still going to take care of the people, because I am the people's governor.
And Councilman Smiley, an opportunity to respond.
Absolutely. So first, I want to thank Dr. Atwater for her service, because she does do a good work. But let's talk about what I've done in my time in office. We've amended the eviction set out ordinance so that people's property is not directly going on the streets. We've put a hold on issuing any tags while COVID-19 was running rapid. We zeroed out every single bill in which someone was hopping in an ambulance because they were subjected to COVID-19. We've implemented a police transparency portal. When I say we, and I hate to talk specifically like this, I did these things because I understood at the forefront of every decision has to be the people. And specifically, the people who have elected me, because they understand where my heart is. And my heart is to raise the floor for every single person who called the state home.
Okay, next question.
You call my name Mary Butler?
I don't think he insulted you.
Thank you.
I said thank you.
We're not going to insult each other anyway. We're Democrats.
But the next question will go to you. Tennessee is one of a dozen states that have not expanded Medicaid coverage to the uninsured under the Affordable Health Care Act. Instead, the state has pursued a Medicaid block grant. As governor, what, if anything, would be your plan to expand access to health insurance and health care?
It is appalling that the governor did not expand Medicare. And being a nursing home administrator and a hospital administrator, I understand Medicare, Medicaid, and all that. But what is interesting, because I'm a researcher, what is interesting about Dr. Lee, Governor Lee, he did not expand Medicaid, but the Office of Inspector General have launched an investigation on him, because what have happened, $349 million, they're trying to make the state and Governor Lee pay back because they violated some of the rules and regulations of Medicaid. And I find it ironic that the media hasn't covered that yet. So what I would do, I would expand Medicaid.
Same question, Councilman Smiley.
Well, the problem is we have to have a foundational understanding of the roles of government. The legislative body pass laws, the executive body execute the laws to carry out the laws of the land. But let's talk about what we haven't done. 800,000 Tennesseans are uninsured. If we do the right thing and expand Medicaid, we're talking about providing coverage for 400,000 Tennesseans. We're talking about creating over 15,000 jobs. We're talking about connecting poor people to much needed health care. But it's not just about expanding Medicaid, because that's only one tool. There's other inequities that we have to address. Studies show that folks who live in food deserts, and we have about 1 million people who live in food deserts, they are not eating nutritious and they have poor health outcomes. If we want to decrease the health inequity, we must address food deserts, we must expand Medicaid, we must put people in a better position. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to another audience question asking your thoughts on Amendment 1, which would essentially take Tennessee's status as a right-to-work state and encode it in the state constitution.
This General Assembly, I hate to be so direct, doesn't give a damn about people. Because if they did, they would do the right thing as it relates to a lot of different issues. If you cared about people, you expand Medicaid and give people access to needed health care. If you cared about people, you allow women to do what's right, which is do whatever they want to with their bodies. If you care about people, you would be putting people in a better position. And you're not putting people in a better position by passing something that is cleverly disguised or cleverly named as the right to work. But in reality, Tennesseans across the state understand it is the right to work with less. It's the right to make your wages low. It's the right to work in unfair and unsafe environments. We should be voting down this particular piece of legislation, and we should tell everybody that we run into that we're voting no on Amendment 1.
And Dr. Atwater, same question to you.
Actually, I agree with Councilman Smiley. But as the new governor of the state of Tennessee, there's a lot of things going on in this state that the average lay person does not know anything about. And what I would do, I would implement a forensic investigation on all of the principalities of the government. I want to investigate not only them trying to amend the Constitution, which is against our constitutional right. I would also like to address the PPP distribution that they gave to large corporations. I would also like the taxes, abusive tax incentive that most of the politicians going along with, when that money could be going to senior citizens and people living in poverty. So I also believe that that amendment should be voted no.
Okay, next question, you will get the first answer. Tennessee is also one of about a dozen states that has not either decriminalized marijuana or legalized its medical or recreational use. What would be your approach to cannabis regulation in the state?
I believe in medical marijuana because we gave medical marijuana to Agent Orange veterans years ago as a nurse. But we have to be very careful, not because we're on the campaign trail, just agreeing and saying things that people want to hear. We need to be very careful, I think, before we think about legalizing it. I think that we need to have more FDA studies before we legalize it. And I'm not going to tell someone, I'm not going to commit prematurely that I would be for regulating it, because I live in a community where I see young people using recreational marijuana, and I see them using it all the time. And in this particular neighborhood, I see women getting beat every day. And when you go close to the car, you smell the marijuana. So I'm still straddling the fence with that.
And Councilman Smiley, same question.
The war on drugs. If we look at how marijuana was treated in years past, it was Black and brown people who were being locked up. And they're still in jail today. There was a time in which the city of Memphis, the city council, attempted to decriminalize marijuana. And guess who came knocking on our door? Governor Bill Lee. Governor Bill Lee immediately said that if we continue to decriminalize marijuana, they would sue us. So we have to stop. The reason that it's important is because we have more important things to be talking about. We have the third highest rate of violent crime. Why do we care if someone wants to smoke marijuana? What we should be focusing on is decriminalizing marijuana, moving to medicinal marijuana, and ultimately with the goal of legalizing marijuana. Because it's not just about a substance, it's more about how we put people in a better position. My administration, we will expunge records of those individuals who have suffered or have been subjected to a criminal record because they had a substance-related crime. But in addition to that, we will make it our priority to figure out ways that we can use the revenue from legalizing marijuana to put people in a better position to stay. Because we all talked about we need more money in our education system, and that's what we'll use it for.
Okay. And Councilman Smiley, you'll have the first answer of the next question. You are both running for the Democratic Party nomination. The Democratic Party has suffered consistent statewide defeats in Tennessee for the past 15 years. What is your plan or strategy for making the party more competitive at the state level?
Okay. We need to understand that this particular race is not about any particular candidate on the stage. It's about you. This is not a moment in time, but this is a movement. How do we win? How do we make Democrats more effective? We allow and we put all our resources in Democrats running down ballot races. Like my friend Ann Quillen, who's running against Cameron Sexton. We need him out of office right now, not tomorrow, but right now. But in addition to that, we have to go into communities. For far too long, Democrats accepted the theory that in order for us to win, we only go into 5 counties. But enough is enough. We're going everywhere. We're speaking to everyone. We're going to places where folks thought that Democrats have not normally been. Why? Because it's about the people. We don't assume people are going to vote any particular way. We can't assume that Democrats will turn out if we don't have conversations with them. What I know to be true, if traveling across the state, I had a conversation with a Republican mayor. And he asked me this. He said, if you're a win, what would you do differently? I said, I would bring people together. And I asked him, will your life be better? He understood that his life would not be better. The life of his 2 little girls would not be better on this current administration. He told me he would do something he's never done before. He would vote for me. And I told him, find me 299,000 votes and we will make something different. But we're going to work hard to make it happen. And we will do it in 2022. Thank you so much.
Dr. Atwater, same question.
Yes, with my campaign, I try not to generalize, and talk is cheap. Last year, or the year before last, I had a bus. I was instrumental in taking 5,000 people to the voting poll. That's how we make a difference. I think we're behind the curveball as far as the Democratic Party because we should have had a precise plan last year with boots on the ground. So what I would do, I would send out questionnaires to the people because I want to put people back into politics and ask them what exactly do they want, what do they want to do to help our community and our party. But we have to communicate more effectively with the Democratic Party and the members right now, but not in the year of election before that. So we should have had an effective plan in place. Thank you.
Okay. And next question, you'll get the first answer. This is another question from the audience. Do you have policy thoughts on affordable housing and the homelessness crisis across the state?
My lucky day. Woo, we going somewhere now because it's easy to talk. I have walked the walk. Again, I feed 10,000 individuals every year, homeless people. I promote homeless housing. Right today, I have 5 women that I'm hiding out underground safe haven because of domestic violence that's homeless. So again, I don't want to generalize. I don't want to talk.
we need a plan of action to move this forward because we are in a state of emergency. So what I would do, what I have done in Clarksville, Tennessee, I bought a 100-acre farm and I turned that farm into a 350 affordable housing. I'm also part of New Chicago CDC, where we make sure people that's not have homes, we make sure that they have housing, something that city council should be doing. We are short 30,000 affordable homes in the city of Memphis. What's happening? The poor people, indigent or whatever, they moving out of the city of Memphis. We have went from 75% to 55% African American because they cannot find homes, because their homes are being sold by back taxes. And so we have to put things in place, plans in place so that people can afford housing, and the government should be working with them in order to get in those houses.
Councilman Smiley, affordable housing and homelessness.
I think the question before us today is, how do we create real change? I'm gonna tell you what we've done, and I'm gonna tell you how we can make it better across the state. When developers come to the city of Memphis, they always ask for the same thing. They're asking for a handout from local government. And a lot of times cities decide to give them public incentives. But what we can do is we can put conditions in those contracts. We can stipulate funding on the amount of affordable housing that folks are receiving. What's happening in downtown Memphis, they're developing, that's true. But what we're not talking about is the fact that people, because of the legislation that we put in place, because of the conditions that we put in place, people are having an opportunity to live in the downtown core of our city in an affordable price. But what can we do on a statewide level? The same thing. It's the same formula, because local governments ask the state of Tennessee for funding. We can stipulate those dollars on the amount of affordable housing that they create. Everywhere I went, the question's always been the same. What can we do about affordable housing? Good thing for us, I practice law and I understand about stipulations and how we can stipulate state dollars to making sure that people have a place to lay their head every single night.
Okay, and we're going to have one more question, and then we will move to 2-minute closing statements for both of you. So here's the last question, and Councilman Smiley, you get the first answer at this. The Tennessee Supreme Court recently ruled that Governor Lee's Education Savings Accounts pilot program can proceed in Davidson and Shelby counties. Do you support the expansion of school vouchers? If not, are there any kinds of school choice options that you would support for Tennessee families?
I find it hard to say that I support anything this governor does. But I would say this. So no, I do not support school vouchers. And whenever you create a particular law that targets certain communities, it is undoubtedly unconstitutional. You can't do that. That's what we learned in law school. That's what lawyers know across this country, that it's unconstitutional for target a specific community just because you don't like what they're doing. But in addition to that, the type of school choice options that I will support public schools, because that's where public dollars are intended to go. But for some reason, this administration is hell-bent on privatizing public education. They create a formula that allows the funding to follow the student. But what happens when that student goes to private school? And now we have this Tennessee Supreme Court's decision in which vouchers are allowed so the students can take the dollars into private education. I would suggest to each and every person here that this formula was never about our students. This formula was about big business and big donors, not about our children.
And Dr. Atwater, same question, school vouchers and school choice.
When I launched that $20 billion lawsuit against the city, the county, and the state, and Governor Lee, I'm clear about what is going on in the state of Tennessee. So with his vouchers, what he's trying to do, he's trying to move in systemic practices, desegregate the neighborhoods again, and then control the funding that's going on to his cronies. I think that we need to take a serious look at what is going on in the state of Tennessee, not only from the education perspective, but also the tax incentive perspective, powers in lieu of taxes perspective, the criminal justice system. I would love to see some of that money of what he's talking about put back into the children, the brown and Black communities that is being shot every day in their neighborhoods, in their schools. Last year, we had a little boy get shot in elementary school. I would like to see that funding earmarked to that type of program. Thank you.
Okay, so now we will move to 2-minute closing statements, and Dr. Atwater, you will have the first one.
I would like to put people back into politics. And it's time out for politicians to tell us what to do with our money. If they're supposed to be the people that look out for our welfare, then they should start today, not tomorrow. And so I want to be your next governor. I have a proven record of what I can do for the people. I'm not interested in playing games with people and saying things that sounds good. Again, I have a proven record of what I can do, but we do need to put people back into politics. Look at my record, look at what I can do. I'm well-rounded, well-grounded, and I have a proven record. If you want to know more about me, you can look at atwaterforgovernor.com. Again, thank you for the opportunity. This is my first official debate. I thank you.
And Councilman Smiley, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you to the Tennessee Democratic Party for hosting this event, and UT for allowing us this space, and each and every one of you for attending, and those watching from the comfort of your own home. Not too long ago, there was a young attorney. He applied for a job at a prestigious law firm. And toward the end of the interview, he posed this question to the hiring partner: why has his firm struggled to retain minority talent? The hiring partner smiled and he said, I'm going to answer it this way. To be honest with you, we had folks here who didn't necessarily think the right way when it came to Black and brown communities, but I think we are ready to move forward. At the end of the interview, the young lawyer gets up and walks to the door, and before he gets to his car, he wondered to himself, why did this firm not know it was ready to move forward and closer to progress? That's the very question before each and every one of you today. And I believe that when you ask yourself that question, you will decide that you are ready to move forward and closer to progress. Because like me, I know you're sick and tired of progressive policies taking us backward, and politicians like Governor Bill Lee issuing thoughts and prayers in one breath while implementing policies that are tearing our community apart and putting our children in harm's way. I'm JB Smiley Jr., and I'd be damned if we continue to allow children to suffer, if we allow women to be treated like property. We deserve a better Tennessee. Actually, in August, we have a very important decision, a decision that could change the trajectory of this state and this party. Choose progress, vote for JB Smiley, and learn more about our campaign by visiting votejbsmiley.com. Thank you all so much.